Is everything to walk?
Love, King. Everything love.
Mashamcha.
Love, King. Everything love.
Come. So, tonight we're gonna discuss a very serious topic. There's some serious allegations of pedophilia going on in Israel, and unfortunately, there's some Israelites that they would like for this subject to be pretty much silent. They don't want it to be known, as many of you very well know. Pretty much, FOPE's been speaking out on it, and so True Disciples of Christ has actually been speaking out on it as well. So this is a very serious topic, and it just really boggles my mind how you could actually literally have grown men and grown women that think nothing of it. I mean, you literally have adults that say, show me this in the scripture. Show me in the scripture where it's illegal. And so, I mean, pretty much, I'm trying to justify it. And so, all of the people that's in this room, can someone, does someone have the capacity to go to YouTube and tell the people that's in that room that I actually set up, they need to come to this particular room?
Con.
Yeah, because I'm gonna go and delete that one. That was actually just to get people to come on, but it looks like most people are actually literally going to the other room. I'll go ahead and put that Zoom link in the room right there. But yeah, it seems like most people are going to the other room. So if you're actually on YouTube and you're actually you're trying to listen to this particular lecture, you need to go to this particular
Join the meeting
area that we actually just logged into Zoom. Now you don't necessarily have to log in from Zoom, but we will open it up for questions a little bit later. But as for right now, we're gonna go into this. We're really gonna break down exactly what pedophilia really is, because obviously you have a lot of Israelites that are obviously unclear what a pedophile is, and when someone's actually going beyond the boundaries, there's a lot of people that may even be ignorant, on the subject matter. I don't know if that's by choice or they're just pretending not to know, but you don't necessarily have to have intercourse with a minor to essentially be a pedophile. Just fondling with one, or just going to watch a minor on some sort of porn site, or arranging to meet with them publicly to carry out some heinous act. All of that essentially is in fact pedophilia. So good brother Yashabam, was you actually ever able to go over to that other room and invite these people over to this room? Was someone actually able to do that?
You talking about in YouTube?
Yeah, it's in YouTube. I had created a YouTube link to draw people, towards the channel, just up until we get started. And I still see
posted something in YouTube for the schedule one.
Yeah, that schedule one is not what's actually running live. Like we're running live right here. I just like ran live from Zoom. In fact, I'm about to go over and delete that. So, hopefully they'll be able to figure out that, hey, you got to come over to this one, because there are people in that room, and I'm about to delete that one right now. So if you're listening on YouTube, you might want to redirect to this particular YouTube window that we're actually on now. Looks like people are actually starting to come over here now, which is a a good thing. So again, you will actually we will give people the opportunity to call in, those that really want to speak up and not remain mute. We'll give you an opportunity to call in and voice your viewpoint. But we're actually going to deal with actual facts. Let's see, there's some more people trying to get in the room over here on this side. So let me share the screen real quick here. Who's that? Who is that? That's a guess. Michelle, Shiva, Shaya, guess. There's a lot of guests coming in here, so let me let them in. Hey, can you just warn them as they come in, Yashabum, that although we're gonna let the guests in, we want to address their questions a little later. So well, all of the guests that's actually coming into the room, yeah, go ahead, good brother.
All right, so this right here is an open meeting for the subject matter at hand and dealing with getting everything, well, getting the heathens out of the nation of Israel. So if you are a guest, please do reserve all of your questions until the very end.
Yeah, and so we're gonna open it up for questions. We actually just want to cover exactly what pedophile really is and go into a little detail here. We're gonna give a few more people the opportunity to get into the room.
Khan, and also please remain muted during the lesson and when other people are speaking, just so that way background noise from where you're at doesn't bleed over and cause a distraction. And you can do that by one of two ways. If you're calling in from your cell phone or from a landline, you hit *6 to mute yourself and to unmute yourself. If you're in the Zoom app itself, there's a shortcut. You can use alternate and the letter A, or you can hold down your space bar, just tap your space bar to mute and unmute yourself.
So yeah, we will open it up for questions a little later. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Can you see my screen? Yashabum being shared here.
Khan.
All right. Let's see, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Got a PowerPoint slide, and again, we will open this up so people could actually go ahead and give some feedback. Let's see, just blocking my view. Slideshow. Okay. TDOC, how to identify, this is like always in my way. How to identify pedophile, how to catch a YAIQAB Part II. As many of you may know, FOPE, the good brother Kanaf and good brother Shasham put out some information, very pertinent information last night, proving that this guy is in fact, guilty of grooming this young lady. At the time that he actually started grooming her, Yapa Yasha'Allah, it's an Israelite name that she goes by. She was only somewhere between 14 and a half and 15. And so, they pull her middle school diploma. And from the point that she was actually graduating from middle school, this guy, YAIQAB, was actually already dealing with her. And to those of you that don't know, this is actually Jacob, in so-called English. So this guy refers to himself as YAIQAB ban Yahawadah, meaning Jacob, son of Judah. To those of you who don't really understand that, the Yashawam, the Lashawam Hakadash. And there were some things that was actually brought out last evening, and we're gonna kind of land me back on those. So tonight we speak against another kind of violence, right? which is actually child sexual abuse. And then we will actually open it up to take your calls. Now, I got a little problem with this because there's been a lot of Israelites that's actually been showing their true colors and that they're actually supporting this. The fact of the matter that this guy hasn't actually been dismissed from the camp, and you got these so-called elders that's still trying to justify this guy's behavior is one of the most appalling things that I've actually ever seen and heard. So I want to start by saying this. All parents want to protect their children from predators. But how do you keep your kids safe when you don't know how to spot one? Because obviously you guys don't know how to truly spot a predator, a pedophile. Now, anyone, I want to make this abundantly clear. Anyone could be a child molester. So identifying one could be exceedingly difficult, especially because most child molesters are initially trusted by children that they abuse. So it is with the case of this guy, YAIQAB. The young lady trusts him. So I want you to read on as we go on to learn which behaviors and traits are really red flags and which situations to avoid and how to deter child molesters from targeting your child. This is a very, very, very important subject. Now, someone who's actually a pedophile is not always a child molester. Understand that. Understand that. But a pedophile or pedophilia itself is formally diagnosed as a psychiatric disorder. So we want to make that very clear. All of you that don't see a problem with it, you have a psychiatric disorder. YAIQAB has a psychiatric disorder and is in need of desperate help immediately, if not sooner. Now, let me put this out there. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. If you need some sort of psychiatric help, seek yourself a psychologist or psychiatrist. This right here is just merely for educational and informational purposes only on how to catch a YAIQAB, a pedophile. So a pedophile now may not sexually abuse children themselves, but they may view child pornography, which is also a severe criminal offense. Make no mistake about it. And helps to maintain the cycle of child abuse by engaging in such. Now, an adult who is good at interacting and understanding children is not a pedophile by default. 30% of children who have been sexually abused were abused by a family member, and 60% were abused by an adult that they knew who was not a family member, like YAIQAB. He's not a family member, but he knew this young lady. That means only 10% of children who are sexually abused were targeted by a total stranger that they didn't know at all. Understand that. So in most cases, the child molester turns out to be someone known to the child through a school or another activity, like, for example, a religious organization or a religious camp like the House of Israel under Zabak. Or it could be a neighbor, a teacher, a coach, a member of a clergy like this guy YAIQAB, a music instructor, a babysitter. So the family member, like mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, step parents, and so on, may also be sexual predators. Now, we can't say this for certain, but there's obviously a reason that this young lady is attracted to this guy. Something, something possibly could have actually happened to cause this. I'll say this: usually, someone that becomes a victim of these type of relationships, they've actually witnessed child abuse or have actually been abused themselves. Now, this is a guy that we're talking about, and this is the young lady that he's been grooming. To those of you that's not aware, I mean, this is ridiculous right here. This incenses me. This incenses me, man. This incenses me. So a lot of these Israelites, they're so sick in their damn minds, they're saying, show me the scripture that forbids it. Well, can someone read that? Matthew 15:28.
Matthew 5:28. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh.
Let's stop for a second. Stop for a second right there, because we got to get an understanding here. This dude is not committing adultery, right? So what's the reason I put Matthew 5:28 here? Because just simply looking at a woman, a man can lust for her, right? Now, obviously, you can see something's going on here, right here. You can see, but I study the science of kinetics, which is body language, right? And body language speaks much more volumes than one speaks verbally. So the Lord, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai says, I say, read that again, good brother.
But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her.
Stop. Okay. This man is obviously lusting after her. How do we know? Because of the text messages, as we will see. We have some of them on the screen. So he obviously lusted. And this was not a platonic relationship, as you will see. The truth has been exposed, and this guy is guilty. This guy has literally incriminated himself. All right, go ahead.
Hath committed adultery with her already in his heart.
So in other words, what the Lord is saying, if a woman is married and a man look at that woman and he lusts for that married woman, he's already guilty of adultery in his mind, because now he's thinking to act that out. So the same thing will go for a pedophilia situation. Since guys saying they can't find it in the scriptures, if you looking on a young woman and you lusting for her, and you lusting, and then you take it to the point where you start communicating with her, and then she's calling you my love, that's blatantly obvious. That's blatantly obvious that you violated. You violated, and you actually really need to be dealt with, because he's looking at her from a lustful perspective, from a relationship perspective, and this is sickening. You can see why it's a psychological issue here. So while this man is not guilty of adultery, he's guilty of grooming this child. Now, let us prove lust have conceived in their interaction on this next slide. So watch this. We're going to see that lust have conceived here. Watch this. Read that, brother. Now, this is what's going on here. Now, YAIQAB, YAIQAB, now, this is him right here. Now,
Khan, so the top part of this message, the young lady put out that she can't wait till she learns how to sew so she can start making garments for her boo specifically. And I'm paraphrasing that, but boo emphasized is the quote. And this is what the response was. You got YAIQAB, he said, that's right. And then YAIQAB answers, looking forward. Now, specifically under YAIQAB's response, you have this little girl, and she puts, it would be an honor, my Ahab.
Yeah, Ahab in the Lashawam Kadash means my love. My Ahab means my love. Now you can see that's not platonic. Why is a young girl like this calling him my love? In the modern Ibrit, the word would have been ahava, ahava. But in the Lashawam Hakadash is mahab, my love. So she's calling him my love. So it's obvious there's much more going on here than what this guy is saying. And guess what? Zabak knew about this. There's many men in their camp knew about this, and they continuously to try to defend this. You can't. This is sickening, and this guy is definitely guilty. Here it is again. Now, does this seem like a grandfather to granddaughter relationship or a mentor? La, it is not platonic at all, not based on what we see on the screen here, putting that in context. Now, let's read this, good brother, James 1, verse 12. We're going to start right here, James 1, verse 12.
Book of James, chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation.
So this man is not blessed because he did not endure temptation of a minor. And he was not tempted by the devil. This demon was tempted by his own lust. Read on.
For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of
This
life.
man is not going to receive a crown. This man is going to receive harsh judgment. Go ahead, read.
Which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God.
Okay, so stop for a second, good brother. Let's stop for a second. So we have a lot of people, we have a lot of gainsayers like, yeah, well, she has something to do with it. This is a child that we're dealing with right here. It's the adult's responsibility to say no. She can't tempt him unless he participates. Understand that. She cannot tempt him unless he participates. And this guy is fully participating. Fully participating. Read on.
For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man.
So this man don't have the spirit of the Lord in him, because the Lord can't be tempted with evil. So what spirit is in him? Nakash, the spirit of the snake, or the Hashaitan, the spirit of the devil, Satan. Read on.
14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust.
So this is his lust. That's what causing the lust for a young child like this, and she's calling him my love. So the only reason she would be calling him something like that is because he's groomed her. That doesn't even come. Can you come on, man? You got a child. Look at this, man. Calling this this demon my love. And then you got men and women coming in his defense. This guy's guilty, man. You know.
He is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. 15. Then when lust have conceived.
Okay, when lust have conceived, they start communicating like this through text messages. This is how you know when lust have conceived. When lust have conceived, she start calling him my love. She's no longer calling him, Jacob and so on and so forth. This is something you call your woman, my love, and so on and so forth. That's when lust have conceived. Go ahead, read on.
It bringeth forth sin.
It bringeth forth sin. So now this man is sinning. Why? Because Christ said, if any of you, if you hurt these little ones, meaning the children, and she indeed is a child, you know.
And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death.
So this man is dead. And when the scriptures is talking about death, it's not talking about that physical death yet. The first form of death is separation from Yahweh Shah. So this man is physically alive, but spiritually dead. He's spiritually dead. The spirit of the Lord is not in him. It's darkness.
16. Do not err, my beloved brethren.
So this man is already erred. It's a little too late for that. He's already erred. Okay, now let's talk about noble common characteristics of a child molester. So we're going to spot it out. We're going to analyze this. We're going to analyze this. Now, while anyone could turn out to be a child molester, the majority of child molesters are men, contrary to what Delet was saying. The majority are men, regardless of whether their victims are males or females. Many sexual predators have a history of abuse in their own past. So chances are this guy's been abused. You understand what I'm saying? He's probably been abused when he was a child. And so the only thing that people have a tendency to associate with is what they know. See, people don't understand this on a deep psychological level that I do. Everybody don't have that understanding. So he's probably been abused in his past. either physically or sexually. He might have been abused by a bad father or son. You see what I'm saying? He might have lived with an alcoholic or someone that was a substance abuser, or he might have been sexually abused. We don't know. Now, some also have a mental illness. We've already determined that a sexual predator has a mental condition, such as a mood, a personality disorder. You understand what I'm saying? This guy could be a narcissist. You know what I mean? The guy could be, who knows, bipolar. I don't know. I don't know him personally. Heterosexuals and homosexual men are equally likely to be child molested. So there's no distinction there. The idea that the homosexual men are more likely to be child molesters is a complete myth. So get that out of your head. Female child molesters are more likely to abuse boys than girls. This is what the statistics are saying. I can't make this up. Go and check it out for yourself. A child molester often doesn't display as much interest in adults as they do children. Why is he hugged up with the little girl? Why can't he find a woman somewhere when his, if not within his own age group, at least a woman that has experience and been in several relationships? They may have jobs that allow them to be around children of a certain age group, or contrive other ways to spend time with children by acting as if they're a coach, a babysitter, or a neighbor by trying to help. Child molesters tend to talk about or treat children as they are adults. So he see this woman, this young girl, as if she's a woman. That's how sick his mind is. And all of you that support this guy is not speaking out, your mind is sick. Yeah, you're sick too. You're sick too. They might refer to a child as they will refer to an adult friend or lover. Case in point, ahab, meaning ahava, my love. Child molesters often say they love all children or feel as they're still children. You hear me say it often. A grown man chopped into, a little boy chopped into a grown man's body. Now, what do we look for here? A child molester often doesn't display much interest in adults as they do in children. They may have jobs that allow them to be around children at a certain age group. It's 10 o'clock. We just covered that. As you see right here, doctors could be it. There's been plenty of doctors that's been performing unnecessarily sexual acts on female patients, even the adult female patients. Okay, now, I'm going to say this to everyone in Israel. If you have this man's real name, you put him, anyone that you suspect may be a child molester, you put him in this site right here, and it tell you if they're a registered sex offender. I think everyone should write that down. Everyone in this nation should write this down, and you look for the registered sex offenders around you. Every time I move to a different location, I will go and look for the damn registered sex offenders, because I need to know what they look like, because I have children. And I definitely keep my toes close. Read that, good brother.
Find out whether sex offenders live in your neighborhood. You can use the U.S. Department of Justice National Sex Offender Database located at www.nsopw.gov/en-us to determine whether any registered sex offenders live in your area. All you have to do is enter your zip code and do a search, and you'll be able to see where child molesters might live.
So you guys, who I know, brother Kanaf and the good brother Sham. I know you know this guy. You don't have his real name yet. If we get his real name, we need to do a background check on him and see if he's a registered sex offender. Go ahead, read, King.
You can also do a search for individual names to see if a specific person is a sex offender. It is good to be aware of potential predators, but realize that it is illegal to take any kind of action against registered sex offenders. Anyone that knows his real name, to do a search, see if he is listed.
Yeah, come on. All right. Teach your child to recognize inappropriate touching. I tell my children this all the time. You must educate your children before it's too late. Don't wait until it's too late. I don't give a damn if it's a teacher or whoever. You teach your child, if someone touched them in an inappropriate manner, they come home and tell you. They come home and tell you right away. And you need to teach them to scream out. If a stranger comes and you need to teach your child to scream out as loud as they can. Teach your child to recognize inappropriate touching. Many parents use good touch, bad touch, secret touch methods, right? It involves teaching your child that there are some appropriate touches, like a pat on the back or a high five. Yo, let me get a pound. There are all some unwelcome or bad touches, like a hit or kicks. They're being abusive. And there are also secret touches, which are touches that the child is told to keep a secret. They'll often threaten the child and tell them not to say anything. Use this method or another one to teach your child that some touches aren't good. And that when this happens, he or she tells you immediately. Immediately. Don't wait. And so you need to teach your children this, family. Read that, good brother. Now there's this guy, Tazadaq, and this dude right here, the pedophile right there. Well, according to what's going on, man. Okay.
Khan, teach your child that no one is allowed to touch him or her in private areas.
Ever, 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 never. Okay.
Many parents define private areas as those that will be covered by a bathing suit. Children also need to know an adult should not ask a child to touch anyone else's private areas or their own. Tell your child to say no and walk away if someone tries to touch him or her in a private area. Tell your child to come to you immediately if someone touches him or her the wrong way. Child sexual abuse is an exploitation of a child for sexual gratification of an adult. It may range from exhibitionism and fondling to intercourse.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be intercourse. Understand that. They could be fondling the child. You see what I'm saying? Rubbing on them, touching on them, so on and so forth. And the reason that I have this dude's a box picture here, because he's a leader of this organization. This guy right here, he should be out of here. He should be out of there. Go ahead.
Fondling to intercourse and the use of children in pornographic materials. Child sexual abuse over centuries has been cloaked in a conspiracy of silence because the abuse often occurs in the home and religious organizations such as the House of Israel under Tazadaq Shah, aka Jeffrey Iverson.
Cool. Here it is again, man. Here you go again. So these victims are children. People tend to think that certain authority figures such as parents, stepfathers, teachers, or clergy are above reproach. This is obvious by the amount of men and women that have used folly to attempt to justify these men's actions that have violated these children. Too many of you are under the vibration that pillars of the community could not abuse children. Otherwise, so-called leaders, so-called strong leaders, they're the pillars of the community, like this guy, or you know what I mean? Like, Tazadaq not condemning him, and you so-called leaders of Israel not speaking out against it. And then when you speak out against it, you use subliminal messages instead of calling names. Abusive behavior often hides behind the mask of love and trust. So this man, obviously, he established trust, groomed her mind, just blew her mind. She feels like she, falls in love, and boom, it's established there. YAIQAB Part II of the House of Israel is guilty of grooming a 15-year-old child, hugging her, pucking his lips in a photo, a 56-year-old man with a child. We're going to bring that photo out also. All right, take that, King.
This man is still among Israelites and go out and teach freely. Tazadaq has violated many men's wives. Instead of addressing this issue with seriousness, they won't even say his name.
Oh, so when I say they won't say his name, a lot of so-called Israelites are speaking up. They won't say the name. They use subliminals. Okay.
HODC use subliminal, yet they leave comments on my board saying I'm obsessed with Zabak.
Yeah, so I mean, Cheeseburger, that guy, Mathathawa, I call him Cheeseburger, man, because you know gluttony is a sin in the scriptures, and he's gluttonous. He's calling me everything about except for the child of Satan. But what did I say that wasn't true? Which one of my good deeds do you stone me for? You see what I'm saying? It's because I told the truth. I utterly became enemies, but I'm going to still keep banging on them with the truth, man. And I'm going to call names. Go ahead, King.
No, I'm obsessed with obeying Yah and ensuring that our women and children are protected. We don't have time for the so-called leaders to take subliminal shots at these men and won't say their names. Once again, 1 Timothy 5, verse 20, them that sin, rebuke them before all, that others also may fear.
So this is what we're supposed to do. This is what the Lord says through the spirit of Timothy and Paul, that we're not supposed to go to these men in private. Most of the Israelites are saying go to them in private. What is that going to do? You gotta make sure what the scriptures say. This is in line with the scriptures. We put them on blast in front of everyone. That way, that puts fear into the hearts of any other demon that may have actually considered doing that. You might second guess that. You might second guess the decision.
Our children are being molested. Adultery is occurring throughout our nation. A brother has a wife. She leaves him and get with another brother, resulting in the men hating each other.
This has been done throughout Israel again and again. They can't even call me a liar. I sit back and watch it. Go ahead.
And nothing is done. I'm here to tell you, leaders, that you need to repair also. We need repair as a nation.
Yeah, this whole nations need to be cleaned up, and this is what we're doing, whether they like it or not. Go ahead.
That same unhealthy attitude of making babies and not taking care of them that was taught to you on the slave plantation is still with us.
So stop for a second. So the guy, Zabak, said he can't get a job because child support would eat him up. So he's been a vagabond in Israel, going around setting up, buckets to collect cash and so on and so forth. Okay, King. Hey, someone need to mute their mic in the background. It's like a lot of distortion going in there. Go ahead, King.
Many Israelite men are just sperm donors. That Willie Lynch syndrome is still with us, but molesting children is new. You leaders, if you're watching, out of love, I respectfully say this to all people that have warned me and say, Tazadaq, remember, they murdered Malcolm X for trying.
So stop for a second. The reason I put this here, because a couple people said, Tazadaq, I'm worried about you. Remember, they murdered Malcolm X for trying to bring down the Nation of Islam by himself. You got to be careful. Maybe you should stop trying to be the savior. But I can't stop, man. The Lord put this spirit on my heart, man, to expose this. So I got to keep going, man. Okay.
At least Malcolm X died for a cause. If I have to give my life to fix this nation, then glory be to Yah. John 10:37. If I'm not doing the works of my Father, then do not believe me. 38. But if I'm doing them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works themselves, so that you may know and understand that the Father is in me, and I am in the Father. 39. At this, they tried again to seize him, but he escaped their grasp.
So, I mean, this is what was actually going on with the Pharisees and YAIQAB Shah. Why? Because he was in opposition. And this is what I feel like I'm Christ-like. Like, what if the Spirit of the Lord is in me? And I can tell you that it is, and these men don't like it. So these men are like a bunch of Pharisees. Me, Shashan, Kanak, is the only ones that's really coming out calling names. And now all of these Pharisees, Israelites, were attacking us just like they did YAIQAB Shah. Why? What did he do? He told the truth. And the Pharisees didn't like it. The Pharisees and the wicked Sanhedrin council, they always wanted Christ stoned to death. And this is what's going on in Israel today. You got a reincarnation of modern day Pharisees. And now that they're being exposed, they don't like it. But the world can see you. The world can see what's going on. Go ahead, Ken.
They get angry with me like a bunch of Pharisees. Why? What have I done? I told the truth. How long are you going to sit around and wait for Esau to do for us what we have the power to do? John 14:10. Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own. Instead, it is the Father dwelling in me, performing his works. I can't stop this. 1 John 4:4. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcame them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world.
And I say to all of you, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. You know who's in the world? Satan. Satan. John 14, verse 30. The Lord warned you, the prince of this world cometh and have nothing in me. So great is this he that is in me than he that is in the world. Go ahead, read.
See, so-called elders, the Lord came with the spirit of the Father in him, but the wicked Sanhedrin wanted Christ stoned to death. See, it's not me talking, but Christ that speak through me. But you got mad. You cursed me just as the Pharisees did Christ. Why? What did Christ do? He told the truth. What am I doing? Telling the truth.
And they hate it. And they hate it. Well, the true incidences of child sexual abuse remains unknown. It is nonetheless significant. We state firmly and clearly that any act of child sexual abuse is morally evil. It is morally evil and never justified. So why do we have Israelites that's trying to justify it? Take that. Take that. Okay. Read that.
As the tragedy of child sexual abuse has come to light, we as leaders believe it is important to speak on this delicate and difficult issue, to offer a word of hope, and to help families touched by this tragedy. Priests and followers, staff tell of sexual abuse people approaching them with their experiences. Many more may hesitate to come forth out of embarrassment and fear. Israelites also tell of the tragedy that happens when family members become aware of sexual abuse but keep silent. We know, however, that when sexual abuse is acknowledged and dealt with, many people can and do move forward to form healthy relationships. We know too that some abusers can learn to change their behavior. Elijah Wood, Hollywood, full of organized child sex abuse. We are compelled to speak, even knowing that the Israelite leaders carries a heavy burden of responsibility in the area of sexual abuse. Some ordained priests and ministers and religious brothers and sisters, as well as volunteers, have sexually abused children and adolescents. We are acutely aware of the havoc and suffering caused by this abuse, and we are committed to dealing with these situations responsibly and with all humility. Listening to many of the Israelites' responses, you sound akin to the Catholic Church on sexual abuse. The reason why we keep speaking on it, because it is to help church leaders take the appropriate actions. Each leader must develop comprehensive policies concerning sexual abuse, which often apply to members and leaders. TDOC and FOPE are fully committed to preventing child sexual abuse and to restoring victims to health. We speak, too, as citizens of a nation and a world that decrees the exploitation of girls, While we recognize the sexual abuse of boys is significant, some studies estimate it at 20 to 25% of all child victims. The overwhelming number of sexual abuse victims are girls. We are especially alarmed that the large number of victims who are girls are under age 12 and a half.
Come on. Now, this is Brad Pitt. Elite Hollywood pedophiles control America. This is what Brad Pitt said. He said pedophiles control America. And this is where it goes. I mean, there's such an influx of it. Now, in Canada, I don't know if you guys know, Curefoot might be able to tell you something like that. Canada, women can't be prosecuted as pedophiles. Only men commit sexual crimes. Curefoot may be able to tell you something about that. That's just, crazy. You see what's going on. I mean, the picture's worth 1,000 words here. Okay, so to whom do we speak?
To whom do we speak? To adults who are sexually abused as children, to young people who are or have been sexually abused and their families, to abusers and potential abusers who act out the impulse.
Speak for a minute after you finish that. I got to step away for just a second.
To act out the impulse to sexually abuse those that they are committed to love and protect, like YAIQAB Part II of the House of Israel, to priests, ministers, youth workers, women's commissions and councils, educators, and other leaders who can assist those who abuse and are abused, to people of all faiths who are concerned about families in crisis, to all of society, which is coming to recognize the terrible toll of child sexual abuse and the need to act against it. So right here below, on that illustration, so next slide. What we hope to do. We realize the emotional and spiritual healing can occur only when issues can be openly addressed. In this statement, we seek to bring the tragedy of child sexual abuse into the light, to give people needed information, and to offer the spiritual, sacramental, and social resources of the church so that the healing process may begin. TDOC message to those who are abused. Sexual abuse occurs in all racial and cultural groups, in rural, suburban, and urban areas, and in all socioeconomic and educational levels. Authorities believe that many cases go unreported because they involve family or friends, like YAIQAB Part II of the House of Israel. Reported victims of sexual abuse are most often children of school age, like Yapaya Shirala. However, evidence reported victims of sexual abuse are most often children. Evidence indicates that sexual abuse may begin at even a younger age. At least one major treatment center reported in 1993 that 25% of its patients are 5 years old or younger. Dang, that is sad. Sexual abuse usually takes place in secret and is kept secret because the abuser fears discovery. YAIQAB was more than likely groomed to say what she said, or to say what she is saying to protect her abuser, to protect her abuser, YAIQAB Part II of the House of Israel. Sexual abuse is often more difficult for a child to acknowledge than physical or emotional abuse. And the sexual abuse, the child may feel more isolated. This is why children, like YAIQAB, often blame themselves for the abuse. Therefore, it is important to reassure the child that he or she is not responsible. YAIQAB, you are not to blame for this. It's okay to talk to no one, or it's okay to talk, no one will harm you. You should speak out and tell the truth. The adult, not the child, is responsible for violating the boundaries that the child cannot maintain alone.
So this guy, YAIQAB, that's who's responsible. Like that young child is not responsible. You know, you had simple Israelites coming on saying, well, yeah, she's responsible for this too. She's a child. The child could never be responsible. It's always the adult that's responsible. So it's him that's responsible. You know, he's supposed to be the adult that has the capacity to step away from that.
Hey, like we definitely need to keep an eye on those folks that are trying to push the scapegoat of responsibility onto the child, because they're going to be next.
If they're not already doing it.
If they're not already doing it, they already got that spirit and that lust in their heart to go ahead and commit that, because that's ridiculous.
So what is a profile of an abuser? Abusers come from all walks of life, all economic backgrounds, and all ethnic groups. Men commit 90% of sexual abuse, and 70 to 90% is committed by persons the child knows, like YAIQAB Part II of the House of Israel. Family members make up only 1 to 1.5 of the perpetrators against girls, and 10% to 20% of the perpetrators against boys. It is impossible to reliably identify potential sex abusers. Various studies indicate that they may be more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, may have been abused as children, or have witnessed abuse. You see that? So that means, you know, they was typically a victim themselves of some sort of abuse, even if it wasn't sex abuse. Have low self-esteem, so you know, probably can't get someone their age or within their age group. Consider a sexual relationship with a child easier and less threatening than with an adult. You see what I'm saying? Makes perfect sense. Maintain rigid expectations of roles within the family and view anyone outside the family with suspicion. Rationalize their actions and do not consider their abuse to be morally offensive. And by the confession of many Israelites, they don't take this offensive. You got idiots that's been coming in saying, show me that in the scripture. Show me where it says that in the scriptures. So these people are sick. This is a disease and it's sickening. Some sex abusers, however, display none of the characteristics, while others display only a few, right? So others may display many characteristics and never contemplate abuse of children. Anyone remember this guy right here? Olympic gold medalist. He was paying people to keep quiet. Former U.S. gymnastic team doctor. Pleads guilty to 3 more sexual assault charges. I mean, you don't know what a pedophile looks like, but why do they typically look like this guy right here? Like a damn loser, nerd, someone that's hard pressed. And this is typically what happens to him in the Bing. This is typically what happened to these molesters in the Bing. So I'm going to take that one scenario of abuse.
So you got one scenario of abuse, and then at the bottom you have, at the outset, abusers may try to explain their actions. They may tell a pre-adolescent youth curious about sex, this is your sex education.
Yeah, they're trying to make the child think, well, I'm sexually educating you. And at the same time, they're abusing them, but they're making that child believe that I'm sexually educating you. Yeah.
When a child is upset, the abuser may say, this will help you feel better. Children do not understand what is happening and often go along willingly.
So people have to understand, these Israelites got to understand that's what's been going on with this young child. Okay.
Especially at first. The process of abuse is complex and varied. Typically, it unfolds over time. In pre-adolescence and younger children, it often begins as a special game between the child and the abuser, something no one else is privileged to share. Most often, the sex abuser is in a position of authority over the child, someone the child loves and trusts.
Mm-hmm.
When fondling progresses to more intimate sexual encounters, abusers often tell the child, "This is our secret, just between you and me." Sometimes there's a threat of punishment or injury to others if the child tells anyone.
See, this is known as grooming right here. This is known as grooming, okay?
Then, when feelings of shame and guilt surface, children are isolated. They are too terrified to seek help. Revealing a family secret to the outside world is unthinkable.
See that? What are the signs of sexual abuse? Sexual abuse may be indicated by certain physical and behavior signs, as well as by indirect comments made by the child. There are several clues to look for when one suspects the possibility of child abuse. Physical signs includes irritation. Child might be irritated. Pain or injury to the genitalia area, and genitalia or urinary infections. A child may withdraw or show a sudden unexplained change in behavior. Other signs may be nervousness. Child might be nervous. Child might be aggressive. Child might become hostile, or might have disruptive behavior towards adults. Child might start hating all adults, for example, especially the parents, because they feel like their parents should have known and should have protected them. A child may manifest eating disorders or sleep disorders, disturbance, including nightmares or insomnia. They can't sleep at all. So one should also be alert to the knowledge or actions of a sexual nature that are not age appropriate. Now, how does the child know this? How does this child know this about sex at her age is what's being suggested here. One side alone may not be a positive indication, since any of these signs can point to other conditions as well. However, if several signs are present, the possibility of sexual abuse should be considered and the appropriate actions taken, including seeking medical evaluation. So we want to take that, the effects of sexual abuse on children and adults. What are the effects?
The degree of harm a child experiences as a result of sexual abuse depends upon various factors, including the nature of the act, the age of the child, and the child's general environment. Sexual abuse may result in physical harm such as cuts, disfigurement, and deformity. Mental harm may include a poor self-image, pervasive feelings of guilt, feelings of isolation that lead to social withdrawal, inability to trust or maintain friendships, inappropriate sexual behavior, inability to relate sexually with spouses.
So you said, so a lot of women have this problem. They was abused. They get in a relationship. They have a problem with sex. You know, a lot of women can't reach an orgasm and so on and so forth because they've been abused. And then every time they try and have sex, that problem comes into their mind. And then they try and push that off on the man, but it's something that occurred when they was a child. Okay, King.
And symptoms of post-traumatic stress syndrome, such as flashbacks, addiction to alcohol or drugs, and depression, as one expert notes. While child sexual abuse may not always lead to permanent injury, one should assume that all sexual abuse experiences are potentially harmful. I think that's a 10. We know too that the cycle of abuse, unless broken, may continue in succeeding generations.
So it keeps going on and keep going on and going on. So what are the effects on faith and spirituality? Now, we're concerned about the effects of sexual abuse on the overall development of abuse, children and adult survival. As leaders, we are particularly concerned about the spiritual development and religious practices children, for instance, usually base their image of God. So a child usually base their image of God, who is and how God acts, on the adult they meet in their families and in their churches. So she, she's basing, most likely the Lord on the image of this man that has been grooming her. So when the person who abuses them sexually is also their parent or another trusted adult, like a religious leader, like this guy YAIQAB, that was trusted, children may find it difficult to imagine, much less, develop a relationship with a loving God. So in other words, they may learn to hate God. This difficulty may be intensified if the abuser is perceived as as active in a church, or like he's in the house of Israel. Children may feel angry at God and act with hostility towards those who are God's ministers. In other words, some may be terrified of God because of the destroyed images of God embedded into their early experiences. Many are unable to pray and they reject their religious faith. All of it can result from someone that, like this so-called, religious man, and a child confiding their trust into him only to be abused. Survivors of sexual abuse may find that feelings of rage, betrayal, and guilt make spiritual growth difficult. Survivors may find themselves prone to self-hate and self-destructiveness since they do not love themselves. They cannot believe that anyone else, including God, can love them. They may act angrily, where was God in all this? Why didn't God help me? Healing, forgiveness, and repentance.
Scripture reminds us that Yahweh Shah extends his healing power in the most desperate circumstances. Recall, for example, the story of Jerus's daughter, whom Yahweh Shah restored to life, Luke 8:41 through 56. In that seemingly hopeless situation, Yahweh Shah reached out to the girl and kindled that spark of life and returned her to the community. His solicitude was very human. Give her something to eat, he told the onlookers when she began to walk about the room. Survivors of sexual abuse call out for healing. They long to be free from the heavy burden carried within them. Abusers, too, seek healing. After they come to acknowledge and grieve the terrible pain they have inflicted, healing for those who have been abused. Today, Yahweh Shah continues to restore the human spirit through the prayer and sacramental life of the church, a sign of Yah's love for us, and a celebration of ongoing healing and reconciliation. Many people have received peace and strength from healing services or from praying with a group for healing of memories. In addition, the sacrament of reconciliation provides an opportunity to turn people and past events over to God, realizing that his love can bring good out of evil. As the letter to the Romans assures us in Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. As part of the healing process, we realize that forgiveness is one of the biggest issues that survivors struggle with. Forgiveness is rarely easy, but for survivors of sexual abuse, it can seem impossible. Forgiveness is both a gift and a process, a gift from Yahweh and a process that involves the work of human minds and hearts. The process, often a long one, begins with the survivor acknowledging the abuse, dealing with feelings that may have been long suppressed, and developing a positive self-identity. We caution against rushing the process. We cannot push the survivor to forgive because we, the Christian community, feel uncomfortable dealing with the issue. Rather, we need to stand with the survivor to show the same gentle, loving, patient concern that Yahweh Shah showed to those who were hurt or hurting.
Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor does forgiveness consist in excusing the abuser or in absorbing the abuser. This is what a lot of Israelites has actually been trying to do with this guy. That's not supposed to happen that way, which only Yahweh can do. We again stress that the abuse is not the survivor's fault, but we realize that some survivors struggle with having done things that were perhaps painful and destructive, but which were a means of coping with the abuse. So it might have driven them to do something that they didn't want to do. We encourage survivors to be gentle with themselves and letting go of inappropriate self-blame for the abuse. So these pedophiles that hunt children in popular game rooms, you got to watch out for that, or you don't allow your children in these game rooms. Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor does forgiveness consist of, oh yeah, I think I just read that. Or for physical safety and help for sexual abuse victims and survivors. Bring about spiritual and emotional healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation for victims, survivors, and their families. Recognize that it's not always possible to keep the family together. Raise awareness about the issues by preaching and teaching. Offer help and support for abusers while holding them accountable for their actions. This is what needs to happen to this guy, YAIQAB. Promote the education of pastors and church workers about issues and encourage them to provide appropriate assistance. We do not minimize the complicated nature of sexual abuse or tasks involved in prevention, intervention, and support of people seeking to surmount the past. We believe, however, parishes can play a crucial role in this process through the liturgy and sacraments, education supports of emphatic and knowledgeable personals. A survival assists this writing that she found God revealing in the liturgies of her parish's community says, what can we do together, Israel? And take that.
As a community of Israelites, we have the means to shatter the walls of loneliness, shame, and fear that isolate those who are sexually abused and those who have survived abuse. They need us, and we need to hear their stories of pain, endurance, and courage. We also need to let abusers know that while we hold them accountable for their behavior, they can be forgiven. Some practical suggestions for developing simple action plans at the local level for camps, community suggestions can be adapted for use by diocese. Create an atmosphere of welcome, trust, and safety in your parish that encourages people to come forward, the abused, abusers, and all those affected by abuse, such as mothers who suspect that a friend or family member is abusing their child, as well as family members who may be in a position to offer support and security to an abused person. Establish a procedure to respond when someone approaches a staff member about sexual abuse. Have available a list of referral agencies and resources to give to people who request help. Become familiar with state reporting requirements as well as diocesan policies concerning sexual abuse. Israelites need to develop programs to teach people about sexual abuse issues. This is why TDOC and FOPE are doing what we are doing. For children, programs should discuss appropriate and inappropriate behavior and include suggestions on where to go if they think they are being abused. Programs for parents should help them to talk with their children about their bodies and the right way to privacy, as well as about personal safety and self-protective strategies. Raise the questions of violence and the roles of men and women within the family as part of marriage preparation.
And so this really needs to go on in Israel because it's not really going on. It's not going on. And there's a lot more going on than what's actually been brought out. And, hopefully we're going to be bringing some more out. Expose these demons.
Let me read on.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Delicately introduce questions about how each prospective spouse was treated growing up, how their parents treated each other, and how they expect to act forward toward their spouse and their children. Promote the use of language in camps, programs, and materials that reflects the equal dignity of women. Sharing resources with other camps and dioceses that are also trying to address sexual abuse issues.
Right. There's a lot of fear going on in children like that. This nonsense right here is going on. A lot of this nonsense is going on, man. Grooming a child. All this fear. This is very realistic. This is going on in the world right now. All of this. All of this. This is known as grooming. Child being groomed. And this demon right here, I don't know what to say about her, man. You want to read that? Look what she
Pedophilia
said.
for children. She actually said that?
Yeah, that's a quote
Wow. Who the fuck is that?
for children. Ruth. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ginsburg?
Do some research on it. Yeah. Do some research on it. Demon, man.
Predators may act upon fantasies in one place where children should feel safe. Example, the classroom,
So you
playgrounds.
might have a teacher that's one. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Playgrounds. Some of them go to sit in playgrounds and just monitor the freaking playgrounds and look for a child that he could find as a perfect victim.
Mm. In the internet.
Yeah, that's big right there.
Yeah. Yeah. According to a well-respected researcher in this field, they're aware that people can be watching, and even so, they are very open about the nature of what they're doing. It is easy for children to unknowingly end up in a pedophile's playground. Online chat rooms, instant messages, and message boards are easy ways for sexual predators to hunt their prey. Predators meet their YF, a popular abbreviation for young friend, with the cover of the internet's anonymity. Some of the statistics are alarming. 1 of 5 girls will be sexually molested before their 18th birthday.
That's 1 in
One of,
5. So if you
wow,
count on 5 women, one of them has been sexually molested. One of them. Count on
wow,
5.
wow. 1 in 6 boys will be sexually molested before his 18th birthday.
So it's highly likely that some guy on this call has been sexually molested either by a woman or a man, according to these statistics. Go ahead.
1 of 5 children has been propositioned for sex over the internet. 2 of 3 sexual abuses are perpetrated against teenagers or younger children. 90% of sexual assaults are committed against someone the perpetrator knows.
So 90% of these, they know these people, man.
Mm. The median age for male molestation victims under 18 is 9.8 years old.
Wow.
Damn. The median age for female molestation victims under 18 is 9.6 years old. There are new 400,000 victims of sexual assault every year.
Look at that, man.
Wow. There are over 550,000 registered sex offenders in the U.S. And there are over 100,000 sex offenders that fail to register in the U.S. 76% of serial rapists claim they were molested as children, and over 40% of male juvenile delinquents were molested as children.
Look at that. So, I mean, they act out, they act wild. They was molested.
Never agree to meet in person with anyone you have spoken to online.
So here's some of the ways to avoid it. And all of you, rightfully so, should teach this to your children. These are the ways to avoid being sexually abused or being a victim of a pedophile. Go ahead, King.
Never enter a chat room without mom and or dad's presence or supervision. Some kids you meet in chat rooms may not really be kids. They may be adults with bad intentions. Remember, people may not be who they say they are. Never tell anyone online where you will be or what you are or what you will be doing. Never respond to or send email to new people you meet online. Never go to a new online area that is going to cost additional money without first getting permission from a parent or guardian. Never send a picture over the internet or via regular mail to anyone you have met on the internet. Never buy or order products online or give out any credit card information online.
Yeah, this is for children. Keep this in mind. This is for children. Go ahead.
All right. Never respond to belligerent or suggestive contact or anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. End such an experience by logging off and telling your parents as soon as possible. Always tell someone you know about anything you saw, intentionally or unintentionally, that is upsetting. It is better for your child's mental health to be able to discuss exposure to pornography than for it to become a dark and confusing secret. Be sure to keep computers in common household areas. Children should have gender neutral screen names. Talk to your child about what sites they visit, whom they communicate with, and who's on their buddy list. No software will ever be a substitute for being an active parent. Check your child's sent mail and recently deleted mail whenever possible. It is a message. If a message looks curious, investigate further. uh, Nessie, Nessie is good. Is good. Nosy is good. I'm sorry.
Nosy.
Nosy is good. Always remember that a predator relies on those in supervisory parental to remain ignorant of what they're doing.
So they rely on the parent being ignorant or whoever supervising the child to be ignorant.
Yeah. For those who are or have been sexually abused in their families, look on your camp as a source of support, strength, and assistance. Locate one adult within the camp with whom you can talk about your experiences.
This is for you
Realize that,
Israelites. This is specifically for you Israelites. Go ahead.
realize that you are not alone. Many others, men and women, have also experienced abuse. If
Yeah, they
possible,
won't come forward because they're embarrassed. They feel embarrassed to come forward.
yeah,
But they need to vent and get it out so that they could actually move on.
yeah. Find a parish or community support group for those who have been abused. Such groups can help survivors of sexual abuse learn how to find healing and courage to build a new hope-filled life. Once the healing process is underway, join in camp and or community activities to combat sexual abuse. Reaching out to others can help the healing process, and this is why TDOC and FOPE is doing uh, what we are doing. A word to your pa and other children. Although we have not addressed this statement to children, our hearts go out to you. Perhaps an adult in your lives who truly cares for them could share the following words with them. Dear children, when Yahweh Shah walked on the earth, he loved little children. Our Holy Father has said how important children are in the eyes of Jesus. Yahweh Shah treated children with kindness and respect. He understood when they were hurting. Like Christ, we care when you hurt, especially when a grown up has caused your hurt. We know that you are God's very special gift. God loves you and we love you. You are our hope for the future.
Matthew 18:6. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin. Keep this very close to your heart. Whoever calls one of these little ones that believe in me to sin will be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. 1 Corinthians 6:13. Food is meant for the stomach for food, and Yahweh will destroy both one and the other. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Read that. It's kind of old.
Here, then, is the message we heard from him, Mashiach Christ, and announced to you that God is light, and in him there is no darkness. If we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. 1 John 1, 5 through 7. Luke 17 and 2. It would be better for him if a milestone were around his neck and were cast into the sea, than that he should cause one of these little ones to sin.
So the Hamashiach has warned you about violating little children. Okay?
Let us put this in context of lust for a young child. Galatians 5 and 16. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Psalms 97 and 10. O you who love the Lord, hate evil. He preserves the lives of his saints. He delivers them from the hand of the wicked.
This is wicked. Here he is again. You see how look at his lips are puckered. You got to know something's going on here, man. You put that right there in the context of this, Fahad. It will be my honor, my love. Put that in the context of this. Look at this this damn dude puckering his lips. See that? Why is he puckering his lips to that young girl?
Why is this cuck puckering his lips with this child of Israel?
This is crazy, man. This is crazy.
Conclusion. In this stream, we have spoken out against the tragedy of child sexual abuse. We have described this abuse and its effects on children and adults. Our voices has emphasized the need for healing and forgiveness, as well as the need to hold the abuser accountable, and has offered some practical suggestions for dealing with sexual abuse. In offering these statements, we acknowledge our moral responsibility to put children first, to protect the most vulnerable members of our society. We know that sexual abuse raises many more issues, moral, legal, psychological, and others, that are not discussed here. They need to be addressed with understanding, compassion, and justice. We hope that communities of faith accepting their moral obligation to children will formulate their own responses. We would like to hear from them to learn how they are dealing with survivors, abusers, their families, and their friends. Working together and trusting in the Spirit's wisdom and guidance, we can confront the evil of child sexual abuse, break through the darkness, and walk in the light. Now we open up for calls in 1 Corinthians 14:40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Click the link to come in.
Yeah, so anyone that wants to come in, they could click that link, man. So with that being said, anyone, you have anything you really want to add to this? Considering, seeing what's going on with this guy, what do you think? What do you think about this, Mikael?
It's wicked, and this is the culture that certain people that made this world system embrace, and it's insidious because this is one of the end states of the sinner. It's that and homosexuality. Those two, pedophilia and homosexuality, are the most reprobate states of the sinner. And if you don't have Yahweh in your life and you allow him to lead you astray doing these sins, it's a wicked end. It's a wicked end, and it is a possible end with the unrestrained vices and the uncontrolled man or woman that chooses to indulge in that forbidden life. And it is unfortunate, but people who seem to have a sense of themselves and can act very much like they're, in control of their lives, succumb to things like that because the enemy is wily. And you entertain that sin, any of the sins, it can lead you there. And that's one of the places he wants you, is totally bound and destroyed, because you're a vessel that's no longer usable by Yahweh. And there are the elect, but all of us have been given equal opportunity to come into the knowledge of the truth of the light. So the words that you've spoken were already in front of those people who have done the things that they have done, but they chose to deny it. It's their choice. So they have to live by their choices. And if Yahweh should permit them to live and have a chance at repentance, to come into repentance, it's a gift, because it's about what he wants and not about what they think they can get away with. If he is going to bring judgment on them, it's going to be in his time. And hopefully, they will be given the opportunity to come out of the hard-heartedness that they have, and that his word would break that rocky heart that they have to see their ways. And that's just that.
Hey,
Yeah.
so is anyone that's on the call ever been affected or know anyone that's been affected personally?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I think I know of some people, it's like, like the whole report says, man, people, this stuff happens to a lot of kids, I'm trying to think of who.
Well, I know some folks firsthand, and I guess in hindsight, folks try to keep this from me as a way of, I guess, preventing me from behaving a certain way, because I was carnal. You know what I'm saying? Around the time when I first joined, the Marine Corps, I was carnal as I don't know what. So I know some folks, some family members firsthand, and they kept it from me for probably about 7 years. You know what I'm saying? So within that 7-year time frame, exactly what these slides were actually putting out there, that you got like isolation. There are things I couldn't figure out what was going on with my family members, and we were real tight. You know what I'm saying?
11 o'clock.
And then like all of a sudden, you got different things that go on. Like I've seen these family members, they sleepwalk, dang on, start abusing themselves, just weird things that to me at the time seemed like it came out of left field. And then, years later, it all makes sense, when they let me know what was actually going on. The guy was prosecuted, you know what I'm saying? So like Tazadaq was saying, there's no statute of limitations on this stuff. Went to court a number of times, and come to find out, that wasn't the first time that this guy did something like that. But me being the protector that I am, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, it was good that they didn't tell me immediately, but to keep it from me for so long, it does harbor, some hate and risk within the family, amongst family. So this healing process, I mean, it's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And it does take a lot of patience and stuff. And there's recovery. I mean, because they're doing really well, right now. But during that time, between 2003 and 2009, it was just a little bit weird, different like family events and things like that. And it was weird. It was even more weird is that the abuse took place between just like 2000 and 2000 and like 2000, 2003, 2000, yep, about 2000 and 2003 and whatnot. So, I mean, it is a process. So we're looking at just about a span of almost 10 years. So this isn't an easy thing. So I just want to go ahead and put that out there. So everyone under the sounds of sounds of my voice, if you're out there, you need to come forward. There are people out here that's actually here to help you. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be afraid. And like it said in the slide, it is not your fault. No matter what it is that or how the circumstances, if you were a child, if you're adolescent, there's a lot that you don't know and that you're not gonna know.
Right.
I can tell you what, that person that's 20, 30, 50, 60 years your senior, they knew exactly what was going down. And they present it to you that way, so that way you fall right into that trap. So do the right thing and let that healing process, begin. Contact, TDOC FOPE. We go ahead and get you some help, or your nearest, local authorities. You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't need to get any worse than what it already has. That's all I got.
A Caribbean Israelite, what do you think about all of this? Why don't you give a call in? I see you in from the UK. Why don't you give a call in? Just click on that link and call in. And so, I mean, which like really that continues to like boggle my mind is how do you have Israelites that continuously try to defend this guy? That right there, I mean, that speaks volumes about who these people really are, man. And if people don't wake up and see this, I mean, they're finished, man. I mean, how could you support? How could you consider yourself a responsible adult with morals and continue to support an organization like that? After this has been going on, you got a young girl calling, a 50-some-year-old man my love. And, they say, well, some of them are saying, well, you're just jealous because it's not you, and so on and so forth. It's just, it's just utterly ridiculous, man. Totally ridiculous.
You have to consider too. You look at the Mormons and you look at these other religious organizations that they act or pose like they are institutions of righteous, morally upright standing, but the religion itself was founded by, I believe, a Joseph Smith or someone like that, and
Yeah.
he was a criminal or something. And then also the basis of it was actually formed by witches and all of that dark stuff. So then you have Aleister Crowley, who believed in allowing relationships between man and man, woman and woman, and also pedophilia. And people of regard or renown are said to have been involved, like Jeffrey Epstein, uh, with astronomical sums of fiat or whatnot, and they do these things. So there's something insidious. There is an undertone, and I do believe there may have been infiltration of these types of mindsets into the Israelite community and camp, because you never really know. You could spend a whole lifetime and never truly know people that you believe you know. And it's an unfortunate fact in life. You don't get 100% of everybody every day. I mean, granted, there are outliers, but most people, you don't know what type of thought processes people have. And I'll tell you, in the prison reentry circuit, or life, and having been in institutions, there are pedophiles on both sides. There are pedophiles that are working as officers, and then there are pedophiles that are convicted. And some of them are segregated, and there's some facilities that allow these people to live. So actually, there is a few houses where people release to, in the community, and they're living in society, They're in Trenton, they're in these places, and you don't know exactly what got them to where they're at. What type of evil drew them away in their sins like that. It's it's a difficult monster, but there's something very wicked, an agenda. And then there are people who fall prey victim to their weaknesses. And we know that Yahweh said that it's greater for it's better it's going to be the end that a millstone were tied around their neck and they were dropped into the sea, because judgment that comes with those follies and that unrepentant heart of sin, it's going to be steep. But something is causing people not to care, to overlook that and still indulge. So we have to deal with the demons that are associated with these acts, and then the people who choose to continue to fulfill the works of strong strong attachments to these iniquitous things. Because what benefit is there being with a child? I can't conceive of what they could possibly see that could draw them together, because the child is never going to be a voluntary relationship. So something wicked is overtaking these people, and it's the enemy. It's not just demons. It's the evil one himself, and that is who it is, and that is why they're doing what they're doing, because he wants to destroy the light that Yahweh has blessed the children with,
Yeah,
because they're all innocent.
what do you think about these? I mean, if you listen to the core, FOPE was doing yesterday, Shasham and Kanab, you had people calling in, getting upset because they was exposing this demon, YAIQAB, and you have people saying, "Well, show me in the scriptures. Show me what's wrong in the scriptures." I mean, obviously that's condoning it. What do you think of people like that? I mean, what would be your message to people like that?
Personally speaking, my message under the grace of Yahweh and his wisdom, I believe that these people never belonged to Yahweh. They have never been saved by Yahweh Shah. They are outside of the kingdom of Yahweh and his grace. And if they do not choose now, this day, whom shall they serve? They are going to be cast off, and the fire for them will be great and intense. And the suffering and the things that they've done to these young children, they themselves will be responsible and they will receive in due time and judgment. So those people who are allowing this to occur, the blood is on their head because they're indulging in the spiritual adultery. And if they facilitate it, they're no better than those who are serving those men that are allowing this to occur.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have men that men and women. Some women, was arguing in their defense, and I don't get it. It really incenses me that you have people that are call themselves believer in the Most High, and they condone this behavior. I mean, where are the morals? I mean, you're morally. That's really morally. That's a moral disaster.
Yes,
For
it is.
anyone, it's a moral disaster. Yeah.
It has to be from a wicked place. They can't be, you can't have darkness and light in the same temple. So, what is happening here is you're confronting absolute darkness. And that is the nature of this matter. And we can't look at it from any other perspective. It is the enemy and his people, his tares, in the house of the weak or associating itself with the house of the weak, because there is no way it can be justified in any way, no matter if the child believes that it's okay, because it's not.
Well, okay, let's see if one of these other people want. Elder Knopf, you got anything you want to bring out? The other person that just came in, Xperia. You got anything you want to bring out? You want to explain to this guy?
Sure, sure.
YAIQAB?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've done a lot of response, and I mean, reaching out, trying to contact this guy. And we have, I think what's going on in the community right now, the problem because I'm coming down with a cold, is that the Israelite community has actually turned into Christianity per se. What I mean by that is, it's like my pastor said. You understand? Pastor said this, or look at this now. Come as you are. All right, come as you are. Right. And when you look at that, don't judge them. Don't judge them. And this is creeped inside the Israelite community, right? You can't judge them. Let God. I done heard this so many. I was kind of shocked. Let the Most High be the judge. Let the Most High be the judge. Hebrew said, "Let him cast the first stone." I'm like, this don't sound like the same Israelite community that I know. Not saying they not speaking what the Bible says is out of context. And fortunately, that a lot of people are seeing the errors of the dude YAIQAB way. Now I'm gonna say something that may shock people. I think we should pray for the guy and hope that he gets help. You understand? Because obviously this is some sort of sickness, and what you did tonight was beautiful because it is some sort of sickness. Who knows? He may have been abused himself, but I think what's even more sick than what he's doing or may have done, and just we know as a fact, it's grooming, is the people who are standing hourly by and doing nothing and talking about we're going to handle it in-house. And when they say, the scriptures say we're supposed to obey the Lord of the land.
Right.
So when we have something like this, then aren't we supposed to obey the Lord of the land? I mean, we can't throw up a bunch of bricks, on this type of thing. We're supposed to reach out to the proper people to investigate this. Unfortunately, but fortunately, we have done that. We have done it. So I commend you, brothers. We all together, one body here. TDOC and FOP, we together one body and trying to make this happen. I think actually the things that we brought out can actually be reported.
Yep.
I would like to see him come forward, but also as leaders come forward and say something. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I was contemplating is that, I heard you guys mention that the House of Israel has a 501c3 grant. So yeah, so I mean, so one of the things that I may be looking to do, I'm gonna do a search and see if they really have that. And if they do have that, they would actually be in violation of that 501c3 grant for allowing the pedophile to be in that organization and the leaders not doing anything about it. That grant, if they indeed had that, could actually be retracted, and they would actually have to pay everything back that they had under that grant. See, there's more than one way to get after these guys, man. When you deal with from like an intellectual perspective,
God.
but they have to be dealt with. They have to. This cannot go, unnoticed. It has to be dealt with, man. These guys got to be dealt with, and this is serious, man. And what really puzzles me is like so many people, man, like called in trying to defend this. Like, where must your mind be to try and defend something like this? I mean, what kind of person is this? And it shows you where there's such an influx of this going on, man, in the United States and throughout the world. And it is saddening, man. Can you imagine someone preying on a little child like that? Your child, that's, come on, man.
Well, we've been dumbed down, Tazadaq. I mean, the scripture says fools hate knowledge, right? And what we're doing is giving away information and knowledge. Like I said, what you've done tonight is knowledge to make people aware of how to YAIQAB, and to tell the children how to recognize what not to do or go. And the thing, what we did is to understand that YAIQAB could actually groom an adult because you may have a child could be troubled, not that good in school, but hey, it's a nice tool. Oh, this, he's a member of the church. She's a member of the church, and come in or she grooming the parents, right, to groom your child. So we all have to be aware, and as a community, we must stand up. And I would say for anybody, and man or woman that's in any Israelite community, OT, new T, if you sitting back quiet, and also the people that's involved in HOI, you sitting back quiet with all this pile of evidence, and you're not saying anything, it's like you're participating in it. You cannot say, you cannot have a group of your buddies go to a gay club and you go in there.
Right. And then you say you're not guilty. And he blanked out.
On.
Yeah.
Fear. Fear. It's
The
fear.
scripture say, the scripture says you be a saver. And he said, we're supposed to be a watchman. Their blood has been washed from our hands. We've spoken about it. We've spoken about it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's really, it's really, pretty much, up to the people, and they could do something about this if they really want to, man. It's just, but it shows the world, and Israel is actually already under the spotlight, and for something like this go unchecked, it's it's really a blow to the head. It's really a blow to the head for all Israelites that don't stand up and do something about it. And then for people to get mad with you and me and Shashan and anyone else is speaking out against this, kind of just really says something. I mean, they want it to go silent. They want to just sweep it under the rug and just be quiet. It'll go away. And so we know that's what Zabaknim's thinking. Well, in a little time, it'll go away. It's kind of like, reminiscing of when a so-called black person gets shot. A couple weeks, they out in the streets, they're protesting and so on and so forth. A couple months later, they forgot about it. It's gone. It's under the rug. But, the problem's still there. So if you forget about this guy, he's still there to go out and violate someone else. Now, let's say he didn't have intercourse with her, but from what we've covered, he doesn't have to actually have intercourse to be a sex offender. You know what I mean? If that intent is there, if he's fond of her, if he's, maybe, kiss her in the mouth or something. And I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, man, all of these are acts of sex, because some people, they may say, well, no, I didn't have intersex with her. But what about the oral sex and all of that? Did any of these events occur is what people need to be asking. And obviously the man's not going to come out and admit that, because he knew that would incriminate him. You see what I'm saying? So he's going to take the fifth on that. So if the guy's not guilty of anything, perhaps he's willing to, go and get a DNA test to see if you could find any of their DNA. Obviously, she's not going to do it. She's been groomed. And so she's a victim, probably without even realizing that she's a victim. And again, it is the community's responsibility and the adults' responsibility to protect these children. And it's not being done. And so many children, day after day, is actually being violated because people are going silent. But we're refusing to go silent, man. As people see, we'll still stand after it.
Come on,
It's fear. The people are afraid, just like you said. When people get shot, when there's a shooting, people protest, and then a month later it goes away. Well, the other side is also true. When someone that they know does something and shoots somebody or whatever, and they happen to be affiliated with something, people might be in fear. They can't defend themselves, and they think that this person, is morally uncouth, and that they likely will retaliate or something could happen to them. So they prefer to stay out of it. And also the association of being considered snitching or speaking on something and not being able to secure your position and back it up. So that's another element to it. And we as a people, as copper complected melanated men and women, we have that stigma with us where you know we have so much people pointing fingers at our people being criminals involved in things and gang violence and all of that stuff. So it just makes it a murky situation because the enemy he's taken two souls. He's taken the child or the children that don't understand what's going on and creating difficulty for them in their lives. And the abusers, they themselves are prey to their vices because they have multiple indwelling evil spirits and they're weak and they're vessels that just go with whatever is given to them by the enemy. So it's a very it's a sickening situation to see, but you have to approach it decisively. So Kahan Tazadaq, Yahuwah raised you up to do what you're doing, and you're gonna have to have a legal ramifications added to this because there's only one way it's really gonna be serious and taken, for because if the Most High, if acknowledging the fact that the Most High is unhappy with their ignorance and their stiff-necked hard-heartedness, and he has been sharing the word with them and his holiness and his righteousness with the people, and they ignore it or quench it, and they don't acknowledge the fire of the Holy Spirit, then I mean, what else are they going to respond to? They're going to have to respond to judgment and punishment. That's just it. There's no two ways about it.
So, okay, I want to say that Elder Kanath, he hit it right on the head. Being the Israelite is just the new form of Christianity. Now, I've noticed that we got all the doctrines to cut the Christians and all that. Everybody got all the doctrine. We already know, we know the scriptures to go to cut their doctrine and all that. And we go out on the street corners. Everybody go on the street corners, show put their videos up, and all that. But behind closed doors, it's just the same thing. They do the same thing. The scriptures say, "Open thy mouth, judge righteously," right? Then you got people saying you can't judge. Israelites saying this. So which one is it? You know what I'm saying? The moment Israel realize and wake up that you can't just be talking, you got to actually do, because the scriptures tell you people, they confess with their mouth that they know the Lord and all that, right? But in works, their hearts are removed far from Him.
God. And that what you said, brother, is the whole matter. That is the conclusion of the matter.
So like the caller, Xavier, whatever the name is, you got anything you want to bring out? I notice you keep coming in and leaving out. You could speak. The floor is open if you got something you'd like to bring out. Xperia, XA1.
Hey, while she's doing that, Tazadaq, what I find really quite displeasing is that when you have brothers or sisters standing up for something, right, and you look at the dogma our people been through for a long time, and it's like a repetition of something going over and over and over, And when you have individuals that will speak up about it, the first person that will come up and say something is the people who's doing nothing. You know, oh, you should do it this way, or you shouldn't say this. You know, we made some shirts, and we made the shirts to actually shame him. You know, oh, that's too far, or how many videos you guys going to do? You know, and it's hypocrisy, man. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Uh, you're going too far. Let the Lord handle it. And you look in their closet, and they doing nothing. Look at their page.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean that's really you know that's
As
spot
a
on.
people, you know.
You still there?
And Salaki, you gotta think about it too. I mean, Yahushua is the head of the men. Well, I mean, that's just my go-to when I think of if I'm into a situation, what would Yahushua do? Would Yahushua be courting a young girl at 14, 15? What? I'm just saying.
Hell no.
Hey, Xperia, you got anything you would like to say? Whoever the caller is, Xperia, looks like you're actually struggling to stay in and out of the room. You got anything you want to add to this call? Speak on it. Does anyone else see that person? Am I just
Yeah, I see Xperia XA1.
looks like see that little tail there? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't even see a mic there. You know what I mean? Saying connecting the audio. I guess they just connected.
Is Xperia someone else's device and then y'all just called in maybe, or?
Looks like they just connected. I don't see a mic there though. Xperia XA1. Can you hear us? You can chat also here. You gotta unmute your mic if you're looking to talk. See where it says connecting the audio? Yeah, Elder Knopf is right, man. You know, you have people saying how many videos you're gonna do and so on and so forth. I mean, they're not really concerned about you know, the situation at hand, man. It's really a travesty. It's really a travesty. I mean, they want silent so it would go away, so it would just vanish. But you know, we refuse to be silent, huh? We refuse to be silent. This can't go away. This, you know, has to be you know, prosecuted to the full extent of the law. If something did happen, and then we could already see that the man's been grooming him just based on the text messages. That right there shouldn't have happened. That right there is a violation. You know, a grown man like that, grooming a child like that, and it's been going on for a couple years. It's just like, I mean, and to know that that organization knew about that, it's just, you know, wow, unbelievable.
You know, Tazadaq, this is really heavy, man. And
And Salaki, Elder,
go
if
ahead.
those same people that's not saying anything or acquiescing on it, would you let your daughters do that?
No, actually, they're guilty by association because if you're not saying anything, then you're guilty of it. And if he was to get locked up, right, and they investigate, and it's been going on for so long, of course they're gonna look into the body, that church.
Right.
Yeah, that's just normal, and they're going to find out, right, who's been quiet, who's been saying not to say anything, be none of your business. A lot of people may go down behind this, and I would encourage anybody that's an HOI man to say something so you will be incriminated along with this guy.
Right, because that would be known as conspiracy. You know, you have knowledge of something and you acquiesce on it. Acquiesce is agreeing to that particular act. You're not acting is an expression of an act within itself because you did nothing. It's just like if you see someone robbing a bank and you don't report it, you know this is actually about to take place, then you're guilty of, you know, being an accessory to that bank robbery because you didn't report it and you had knowledge of it. So if this man's actually been grooming her and he's been dealing with her on a level that, you know, the brother's actually been bringing out, and, you know, you're over there and not only are you not saying anything, remember the last night, Kanaf, that Edomite came on and called you guys like you know
right, exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
he was highly. I mean, how could you get heated over something like this when we're speaking in favor of a victim?
right, right.
But you're getting upset with the people that's speaking in favor of the
You
victim.
know why, Tazadaq? Because just like you used the bank incident, he is the getaway driver. He may not went in the bank, right, and pulled the trigger or got the packages. He was driving the car. And who's driving the car of HOI? Sabak. Okay, Sabak is driving the car of HOI. He's the getaway driver, right? He's driving them away, trying to help them get away, right? And no, we right now we're trying to put some flats in HOI, put some holes in them tires so they can't travel. You understand? So we here to stop this shit. But go ahead, like it.
Con. And you know the other thing, you know why that Edomite spoke up is because he knows that we believe in, you know, Negro only Israelites. So this is his opportunity to show how much he could support, so that it still look favorable to him. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Psychology behind this. I be seeing deeper behind the scenes. Like now, this is his opportunity to show how loyal he is. Because deep down inside, he already know he's not Jake, man. He knows he's not Jake. He probably, his parents, just like most of those Hispanics, their parents would tell them, hey, why you messing with that Negro? They got them big thick. Man, you should hear some of the stories that these Hispanic women has actually said to me. And, you know, some of those so-called Hispanic, well, yeah, my family didn't want us to like date black men because she was like, they're not going to have anything, the lips. This is all true, man. I can't make this up. And so
right.
That's what you are to them, man.
Right.
That's what you are to them, man. You're out here talking about the nations, but deep down inside, their family members feel the same way about you. And if you ever get into an argument with you, it's gonna come out. What's the first thing that happened last night, Kana? Well, what did that damn Spaniard call you guys that they're calling the Israelite? First word that came out of his mouth was the N word.
Yep.
First word that came out of their mouth.
Yep.
And what did you see on the board that day, Yeshaya, that you was telling me about, that so-called Hispanic, so-called Issachar? She's not but a damn Spaniard. People came down from Madrid, Spain, and violated, you know, the people over there. But what did she have on the board that day? What did she call us? Canaanites. That shows you what they think of Israel, man. They're gonna call us Canaanites, meaning we're so-called Africans. You dig what I'm saying? So we're not even Israelites. When exactly. I can assure you, I promise you, man, none of these so-called Hispanics knew what the heck an Israelite was until a Jake taught them.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know what, Tazadaq? I'm gonna tell y'all something. We're talking about this, but it's a lot of people. I pray nothing happens, but a lot of people is not gonna be able to take back what they said or take back them not doing anything if something happened. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. If this girl started to, what people say, blow the whistle, a coward would do anything to escape.
Yep.
Right? A coward would try to harm somebody, right? Or harm him or herself, right? If anything happened, right? On any level, because somebody said, what you mean Kornoff is you think she's in danger? I think she's in danger. Because if she starts to speak, you never know. You just never know. And everybody that was quiet, especially the driver, right? That's an acquiescence.
Right.
He will be responsible on a high level. You know, so I mean, let's pray, hope nothing happened to this young sister. And nobody, I always ask, where did they find her at? Was she abused before? Is she a runaway? Where in the hell they find this girl? and they quiet about it. And when you say none of your business, then to me, you're guilty. You're guilty.
It's like, let me tell you something about New York, man. Let me tell you one of the things that go on in New York, right? It's like there's a lot of no good Negroes. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but they would go because a lot of shelters, they're just women and children shelters, right? There's a lot of no good Negroes that will go to shelters and wait for, and this happens in New York quite often, wait for the women have to get out for the day. And they say, well, yeah, hey, yo, mom, what's going on? You come to my crib and all of that. I'll let you chill. Hey, I'm telling you, man, it goes on, and they turn those women into prostitutes and so on and so forth. There's been a lot of incidents, man. There was cases where men used to, go inside on Port Authority, on Buster Terminal, on 42nd, and ask women to help them with their bags. And they actually literally had places, some like abandoned apartments somewhere. They say, hey, let me help you with your bags. And then they end up snatching her up, locking her in the room, and turning her into a prostitute. Now, I'm not saying this is going on with this girl. We don't know where she came from. But obviously, I don't know her father, her mother, parents, but if she had a strong foundation, I would say this would never happen, because an intelligent person must inquire, why in the world would a 15 or 14-year-old and a half girl want a 55-year-old man? And this dude look older than his age. You dig what I'm saying? Why would she want him, man? This nigga look like, Grady from the Sanford and Son. He looks Grady's age, man. So why would she want a man like that?
Mhm.
Now, I'm not being vulgar. He looks like that. Did you see how he looked against her in that picture? That looks ridiculous, man. He should feel embarrassed, man. But he's puckering his lips out, man. That is just like ridiculous. And then for people to come and support that, men and women, probably the women that support that, I hate to say it, they probably actually been abused. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they've been abused, and that's the only thing they can associate with. Like women that get beaten by men, is because they came from an abusive family. And so they think it's okay. We can't discern whether something's right or wrong.
Folks' minds are just messed up.
Unless we've been taught it different.
Folks' minds are just they're really messed up. And like I said, I really hope that guy comes forward, because he may not have very much time left.
He's not going to come forward. If he comes forward, he's going down. So he's not going to do that. That would be suicidal. But as more information continue to come out, he may not have to come forward, because that Elder Connaughton put out a video where she was actually had met him in public. She was sitting on the bench. He was over there teaching. You put that in a context with her texting him, my love. You see what I'm saying? That's already meeting. We don't know what occurred during those meetings. You see what I'm saying? We don't know what else transpired, but that's already inappropriate. You see what I'm saying? Hold on. You're calling this 57-year-old man my love, and then we see him in a video where he smiles at you. Body language says everything, man. You put a damn psychiatrist on that, and someone that study body language, they will bust his behind down, man. They will break him down, man. You see what I'm saying? Just the body language speaks volumes. It says far more than what someone's say verbally. The way that you sit. I study that stuff. Like, and when someone typically, case in point, man, if someone is sitting on a bench, right, and it is said, just based on the psychology of all of this, or if they sit to the far end of the bench with their legs crossed and their knee is pointing that way towards the bench, and their their arms are closed like that, that means they're closed off. They're not open for conversation. If someone's sitting in the middle of the bench and their legs are open like that, that generally means that they're open for conversations. They're open for discussion, so on and so forth. They're not closed off. And if you look at that female's position, the way that she was sitting on that bench, her leg was pointing towards him. I pay attention to everything, man. And you know, he smiled at her when the guy said something. It's all there, man. It's all there. And so people say, well, that's speculation. Well, it's speculation to some, but it speaks volumes, man.
And you know what? That speculation is bullcrap. Look, our eyes was telling us the truth, brother. I noticed where the other brother was reading, and when he said a word about protecting the girls, his head dropped.
Right.
His head dropped right down, just like that, right? That was the shame. His head said, boop, I know his head dropped, right? You could listen, like you say, you can't hide body language. Right. You can't hide body language, right? Body language is what it is. A smile means you're happy. You know, you could put a sad face on. This guy, and then you ever see, now watch this. When you coming home from work, if you got a dog, and that dog see you getting out the car, what that dog start doing? He starts shaking his tail, going back and forth, acting crazy. When that girl looked at him, that man started rocking back and forth. He got real excited. You saw it on his face.
Yep.
You saw it in his face. And I said, look at that damn dog. Look at that dog. But I was told this today. I was told this, that brothers that been reaching out to us from HOI, right? And then I said, go ask Tazadaq certain questions, so on and so forth. Tazadaq tells them not to talk to us. Don't get involved. Right? This to keep them closed-minded and to keep people on his side. I seen a brother on that's in HOI was talking a little trash to a guy that's not to be played with. And Tazadaq know this guy's not to be played with. Tazadaq didn't try to warn his own brother about this guy that he should be talking to like that, you know. So this man is not good at heart, and he doesn't care about the people. He needs to sit down, and the other guy, quite frankly, needs to go to jail. I'm just gonna put it out there. Go to jail. Forget about sitting down. He needs to go to jail, man. Point blank, period.
Yeah. And if he does, his celebrity Israelite career is over, because I mean that's all they really are out there. A bunch of Hollywood Israelites. They're not really doing this for the truth, man. And they got a lot of people deceived, man. Tazadaq, he has a lot of people following him. But you know, people stood and saying, damn, man, I believed in this guy, you know? I believe this guy. I would have never guessed. But the drug, I mean, this Israelite, it's that One West doctrine, man. Don't you know? Let me tell you something, Elder Kanat. Don't you know they would tell brothers? They had a lot of brothers wanted to leave that organization, but brothers was so, their mind was so warped with what they put in their mind, like, oh, well, 7 demons going to get you. You know what I mean? A black demon going to come from hell named Apollyon and it's going to get you if you try and leave the truth. You're going to get hit. You're going to die by something. They put that fear in brothers like that. So they'd be afraid to leave, man. They'd be afraid to leave. That literally goes on.
Yeah, you know, it's true, because a brother just told me about a month ago, he was contemplating suicide because they kicked him out the camp, and he thought they told him that if you get kicked out, there's no repentance for you and it's over. And he thought he was going to die.
See that?
Okay, and I was like, really, brother? He said, man, they had him real heavy, you know. And hopefully I'll have an interview with him so he could tell it. And this organization still exists today.
Well, mostly all of them do it, man, because they mostly all came out of One West. They tell that to all of them, man. They tell that to all of them. You know, this one dude that had, joined this camp for a while. He said they told him that, like he was gonna, and he was a former member of ISUPK. This guy Tazadaq said that, they had told him that he was gonna die of this and that. Trying to put fear in him because he didn't want to go all the way from one part of Texas to the other part of Texas. So they started to threaten him and so on and so forth. But it goes on. That guy Confi, the so-called discomforter, he would do the same thing to people, man. So, I mean, it's something they learned from One West, man. They put that fear in people so that they would be afraid to leave. And if you allow someone to get your mind like that, man, you were somewhat weak from the start, man. If you can't discern, like, yo, hold on, man. So another man telling me this, man. But they just look at this man, and usually someone that falls a victim to this, they already had some kind of problem themselves, man. They was already dealing with a problem themselves.
Most people are. Most people have these problems, man. You know, our people are real stubborn and foolish, unfortunately. You know, but no, we just gotta keep doing what we're doing. I've been asked when y'all going to stop. Well, we're not going to stop. We're gonna let the spirit guide us. I mean, we was the train, the locomotive is still going on with the Negro only, you know, but we let the spirit take us where they need to take us and deal with this situation, you know. But man, brother, it's good coming on. I'm coming down with a cold, so I got to try to take care of this real quick, man, because I ain't trying to get sick. I got work to do, you know. So it's good coming on. Seeing you, brothers, man. And I'll talk to you a little later. Tazadaq.
Okay, shalom. So anyone else got anything? And Messiah, you got anything? Messiah, you got anything? You got anything, Terrence?
Not at this time. It just seems like the brothers are misinterpreting the scriptures for their own benefit. They sound like they just pimping the game, really.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's a misinterpretation. I think they're literally twisting the scriptures. You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
twisted.
Yeah, there's a difference. They're intentionally twisting the scriptures to deceive other people, man.
Correct. And,
Yeah.
or I know it was fiat
Yeah, I
and
mean,
all
it's
this
no different
involved
than
in
the
it.
Catholic priest, man. No different right now. They're looking like Catholic priests, man. And altar boys.
Oh, man.
So I surmise we could go ahead and bring this to an end, man. Everyone should go and share the video. Make sure this doesn't happen to someone in your family, and if it has, maybe I pray that there's enough information in this video to help them to recuperate and get out of this thing, because it has to stop, man. It needs to stop, man. It's got to stop. And to think that people are continuously condoning this is just wow. But that's what's going on, man. A lot of Israelites standing up in the defense of this, but the Most High is going to have the last word in this situation, man. And they're going to wish that they had listened. So I say to all of you, right? I'm going to leave them with this. I say to all of you that's under the sounds of my voice, all of these men that you hear speaking out against this and that you've been coming against, what if it is Christ in us that is causing us to speak? That's something you need to reflect on. What if this is the voice of Christ in us that is causing us to speak out against this? Because remember, when Mashiach walked the earth, when he spoke, they condemned him. They wanted to stone him. They was utterly against it. They didn't want to hear the truth. The Pharisees was constantly at him, trying to trap him up because they didn't want the truth. They wanted the lie. They said a thing and they done just the opposite. And that's exactly what's going on in Israel today. And so with that, I'm going to thank everyone for listening. And we're going to say shalom, Kwam Yasha Allah, to the small faction of true believers. And if you don't fall in that category, you need to repent quickly. So shalom.
Wow.
Shalom.